Oh, hey there. I was just sitting here doing my breathing exercises, Qigong, but I'm getting ahead of myself. Literally, I'm going to talk about that later in the video. Um, I'm here to talk about Daoism. Now, what is Daoism? I mean, some people have heard about it with books like The Tao of Pooh, but a lot of people don't know what it really is, and so I'm here to provide clarity. Now, Taoism is a very interesting religion philosophy type thing that started mainly around in China. Um, Taoism believes more in selflessness and detachment, and they don't really have a strict moral code. And in fact, later on, they believe that they should go against morals. Um, and the founder of Taoism is Lao Tzu, or Lao Tzu, um, and he was the main author of the Tao Te Ching, which is the main and first book on Taoism. And this book talks about advice on life and poetic descriptions of nature. And really, Taoism is just a large focus on nature and uh, how people interact with it. Now, a second guy, Zhuangzi or Zhuangzi, he was pretty much the main author of a second book named after himself, which talked more about Taoist beliefs and talked a lot about the qi, which is the life energy someone has, and pretty much shaped most of the Taoist beliefs. And so he was the one who pretty much came up with the beliefs of selflessness and detachment and lack of morals or strict code. Um, but he started more of the things where people would have complex meditation or breathing exercises like a qigong, which I was doing earlier, um, to help bring out the qi in them, the life energy. And they would also have acupuncture or herbal medicines or more. Another thing is that they try to have a strict diet, which means that they don't have any meat, alcohol, beans, or grains. Um, so that's another thing that's key for the Taoists, because they don't want to really harm anything in nature. Now, the Tao is a really, really confusing thing. It's not really a god, and it's not tangible either. They say that it created the universe, but it's not a thing. Tao actually translates to way or path, and so Taoists believe that that Tao is just the natural order of things and just nature, and Tao is everything and of everything. So the Taoists believe that you shouldn't go against the Tao, or bad things can happen. Um, so part of this is inactivity or detachment and selflessness. So one thing is that um, they try not to intervene with anything. They try to take as least action as possible. And they try to be as selfless and humble as possible. Um, and these are just some things that the Taoists believe. Now, just because the Tao isn't a god, that doesn't mean that they don't have gods. This is something that Westerners have a lot of trouble wrapping their head around, or often forget, is that the Taoists do have gods, but they're more of gods over nature, and they're gods that are borrowed from other cultures, but they also believe that the gods are subject to Tao and have to follow Tao as well. There's not much on the gods, because people don't really believe in them anymore, but they were a crucial part to ancient Taoism. Speaking of ancient Taoism, um, one thing that happens with a lot of other religions is either persecution or support from the government at that time. But Taoism, at least the major part of it, started getting popular during the fall of the Han Dynasty, so there wasn't much government interaction with Taoism, but it still thrives today in communist China. And the government supports most of the Taoism because it does believe that citizens should be good and selfless and serve others. But there could be some friction in between the governments, because it also does say that no one can truly control what happens in nature, and that if anyone tries to, they will end up getting hurt. So Taoism has a interesting not really apparent interaction with government, but there is something with it. But Taoism mostly thrived in China and might have interacted with a couple bordering countries, but China was its main focus, where it still is today. And it actually heavily impacted things like the architecture of China, with grand temples that whenever we think of Chinese architecture, that's what we think of. Calligraphy was a big impact from Taoism. Uh, a focus on nature with landscape paintings, landscaping, uh, poetry on nature. All of these things are big and impacts from Taoism on China. Another thing is metallurgy, also medical practices such as impact on herbal medicines or acupuncture, yoga, breathing exercises, exercises like Tai Chi, and more. There isn't really any social rules or social classes, distinctions in Taoism because they believe mostly in selflessness and humility and serving one another. So, social divisions isn't really apparent in Taoism. And another thing is that it's a fairly gender neutral religion slash philosophy. Um, a lot of when referring to the Tao, they use feminine imagery and calling it the mother or the mom and her and such and so forth. And they have many different gendered gods. But another key thing from Taoism is the symbol of yin and yang, and how in everything there are two sides, but both are inseparable, equal, and have a little bit of the other in it, and they're complementary, and this applies to masculinity and femininity as well. So they're inseparable, they're equal, they have a little bit of each other in it, and together they create perfect harmony. Taoism does claim universal truth, kind of, because it does believe that Taoism, or the Tao, is the universal way, and that everything is a part of the Tao, everything came through the Tao, everything will end in the Tao. And so Taoism does claim to be everything. So, to sum up, Taoism was founded by Lao Tzu. It's mainly in China, and it impacted its poetry and architecture, sciences, art, um, medical fields, and Taoism believes mostly in selflessness and humility, and says that Tao is the way, and what created everything, what is everything, how everything works. It's a fairly equal society, equal religion, philosophy. They believe that everything is a part of everything. There's balance, such as yin and yang, and that's pretty much it on Taoism.